Hello, and welcome to the C3 Method podcast with your host, Robert Polenic. Our goal is to educate you on everything health and fitness related with a clear, concise, and customized approach. We want you to know what you need to know and how to apply it in a way that fits you best. Today's podcast is number 2260. The topic is nutrition. The title is Creatine. Is it overhyped? I had a client send me the following in their journal. They wrote, I've been wanting to deep dive into my supplements, so I started listening to more podcasts and YouTube videos about supplements. You recommended creatine to me, so I have been taking it, but in the content I'm listening to, there seems to be conflicting thoughts. Some people say it's amazing, but should be dosed much higher than what I'm currently taking, while others say it's overhyped and isn't necessary. Would you mind sharing your thoughts as to why you recommend it and why you recommend 5 grams per day? Awesome question. Absolutely love this. This is one of the things I love the most about what I get to do is when people have questions, I get to help them answer those questions. And if I ever don't know the answer, I direct them to resources that would have the answer. I then go soak in that resource as much as I possibly can and continue to develop my own knowledge. So I really like it because I can help other people, and in turn that process helps me. So that way I can live the healthiest and happiest, best life I can as well. I really love it. I appreciate that they asked me the questions. Now, creatine. It is one of the most studied supplements in history. So it's relatively cheap. Creatine monohydrate is the form that is most studied and most recognized as being useful. It's also the cheapest. There's been other types of creatine that companies have tried to sell that were more expensive, but creatine monohydrate is well studied. And when I have a master's in nutrition, I used to teach at the university level, and in all of that experience, I've read a ridiculous amount of studies. So peer-reviewed research studies. I've actually participated in some. So what's interesting is you can find almost any topic. You can find a study that says yes, you can find a study that says no, and you can find a whole bunch of studies that say maybe. So when you look at research, you want to consider it in the bulk of the research. Find as much as you possibly can, and then find the common thread. You're going to find a few outliers that say it's amazing, some that say it's crap, whatever it might be. You want to find the most amount of resources possible. When you're consuming content, such as YouTube videos or podcasts, if a person, say they reference a study and their entire content is based on that one study, that's a little bit of a red flag unless they call that out and say, hey, I'm going to talk about this study specifically and what it found or didn't find. But if they're saying, well, according to this study, this supplement is complete trash, you should never take this. And it's like, well, that's not good. You want to look at more than one study. Or, hey, according to this study, this supplement is amazing, and you should take 5 times the amount that it says. By the way, we also sell that supplement. Why don't you buy it from us? So you have to be a little careful and or aware that when people reference studies, they can cherry pick the study that they want. So if you're looking for whether something is right or wrong, yes or no, whatever it might be, you want to look across as many studies as you can possibly find. There is a type of study called a meta-analysis, which is when somebody looks at a bunch of studies and then gives you a summary of those bunch of studies. So those are kind of neat. Those are very helpful. But that is something to keep in mind is you can hear of a study that says something is crap. That doesn't mean it's entirely true. You want to find other studies that also support that. Or you can find studies that say something is amazing, but that's not maybe entirely true. You want to find other studies that support that as well. When it comes to creatine, it has been studied extensively, and a few outcomes of those studies that are about as known as science can know something in a single moment of time is creatine helps with explosive contractile effort in muscles. So if you're looking at something that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 rep max, creatine phosphate is a type of fuel we use in anaerobic muscular activity, meaning when we want the muscle to contract, we have fuel in that muscle. Oxygen can eventually contribute to the fuel that we use when we're contracting a muscle. However, if you're doing something very short time frame, say 10 seconds or less, you're not going to get, there's not enough time basically to consume the oxygen, convert the oxygen, and then use that as fuel. So when you do use oxygen, it's referred to as aerobic activity. Whenever it's something short duration, which is typically heavy and explosive, it's called anaerobic, which means without aerobic, so without oxygen. So anaerobic. Creatine phosphate is one of the fuels we use before oxygen can help kind of contribute. There's a whole lot of sciencey stuff behind that, like Krebs cycle and glycolysis and all these fancy fun terms. But creatine, when you take that supplement, it's going to essentially, what the idea is you would consume the supplement and it would increase your body's saturation of creatine phosphate, which would be a fuel source you can use for heavy explosive lifts. So that's a very summarized version of really complex stuff. But that is one thing that we currently believe creatine supplementation can help with. Another one is that creatine can help hydrate a muscle, which then makes it appear fuller. So somebody can increase muscle fullness and size by taking creatine, because creatine, being stored in the muscle properly, it brings water into the muscle that then hydrates the muscle and fills the muscle up. Think of filling up a water balloon with water. So that's another thing. So we know that creatine, or we believe, as much as science can believe right now, that creatine helps with explosive muscular efforts. It helps with muscle hydration and fullness. And there's more and more and more and more research saying that creatine can contribute to cognitive benefits, specifically longevity and clarity, mental clarity. That is, of the three, that is the newest research kind of outcome. And that's often the one where you see more is better. Now, that is still being defined. We know that creatine supplementation for the purpose of muscular contraction and muscular fullness has a saturation limit, meaning eventually as you take some, you take, the body improves, and then eventually it plateaus. There's only so much it can consume, only so much it can use, only so much it can store. So you think about a water balloon. If you have a small water balloon versus an extra large water balloon, you can put as much water in the small one as you want, but it's still never going to get as big as the extra large. And if you continue to put water in it, it might snap and blow up, right? There is a capacity limit to that balloon. There is a capacity limit to our muscles when it comes to creatine for the purpose of explosive activity and muscular fullness. The cognitive benefit of creatine, though, seems to be debatable as to whether more is actually better or not. Some of the challenge to that debate is it's damn near impossible. I would never say impossible, because whatever you think is impossible today might not be tomorrow. But it's damn near impossible to isolate all of the factors that would contribute to longevity and clarity, and isolate all of them, control absolutely all of them, and then only micro adjust creatine. It's really not going to happen in today's science. So what they tend to do is control as many elements as they can, give people more creatine, and then see how they do on cognitive studies and memory things. And there is research showing that it can have some improvement there. It can have some improvement in regards to like blood flow to in components of the brain activity. So we'll just leave it at that. So they've seen that creatine has cognitive benefits, but they're still debating as to what is the saturation limit for that impact. With all that said, is creatine does seem to be as scientifically supported for being helpful for those three things as much as we can scientifically support any supplement. So it is one that I recommend. But one of the keys to understanding the role of supplements is understanding where they are in regards to the big picture. Like, what is their role? What is their significance when it comes to everything that we should be controlling and doing in order to have the best outcome, whether that's physical strength, muscle mass, endurance, just general health and blood markers, whatever the goal might be. When we think about where supplements rank in the big picture, there are quite a few steps down. There are quite a few things above supplements. We can think of nutrition, which would include calories, protein, the distribution of your calories and protein, and hydration. Those are all way more important, way more important than supplements. Sleep quality, way more important than supplements. Stress management, way more important than supplements. Overall consistency of those things, so how well you control sleep quality, how well you control your stress management, how well you control your nutrition, which again is calories, protein, distribution, hydration, how well you control those things consistently over time. So consistency over time of each of those elements is also more important and impactful than supplements. And then training. If your desired outcome has any dependency on training, thinking strength, bigger muscles, better cardiovascular endurance, whatever it might be, if you have a training outcome, how you do your training is going to be more important than your supplements as well. So that would be intensity, volume, frequency, and all the other kind of training quality components. All of those things are more important than supplements, and supplements do not make up for any of those things being less than what is optimal, less than what is realistic. You don't have to be perfect in everything, but you damn sure want to be as perfect as you can be for as often and as consistent as you can be. So when you think about, do I need to, if I'm only hitting my calories 4 or 5 days a week, is a supplement going to help me? No. Try to get to 5 or 6 days a week, or 6 to 7 days a week. Try to get your calories in control before I would, spend money on a supplement and then not pay attention to what I'm doing with my calories. So all these things are more important than supplements. Then, once these things are controlled, supplements can have an impact. The significance of that impact is kind of so-so. It depends on what your expectation of results are. So if you're looking at a professional athlete and you want to, do better than another professional athlete, and everybody's calories is good, sleep is good, genetics are pretty much, similar on point. There's all these other components that are very similar, and now you're looking at, okay, I'm on the upper echelon of people who do what I do. Can this supplement help me get maybe 1% better than somebody else? Yes, that's what supplements can do. They can give you that little edge if somebody else isn't doing those things. But again, it's really when you're at the top end of whatever you're looking to do, whether it's strength, muscle mass, again, endurance sports. I work with people who are IFBB pros and drug-tested pros in aesthetics. I've worked with people who have elite and plus, higher than that, totals in powerlifting. I've worked with professional athletes, Olympic Games athletes, CrossFit Games athletes, which are really high end. Like you're talking about the top 1% of people, actually smaller than that percentage, in their chosen activity. I've worked with really high end people, and it's a huge blessing. Love it, absolutely enjoy it. At those levels, supplements do matter. Now, when somebody is new to eating healthy, when they're new to training in general, are supplements helpful? Yes. I mean, they can help in small ways, but they don't make up for the bigger things. So I do tend to give a list of recommended supplements, but I am very clear with my clients, I would hope so, I feel as though I am, that the supplements are good if you can do it, but they're not as important as these things. Let's focus on these things first. But if you're going to ask me about supplements, here's my answer. So I'll give them the supplement information if they ask, but we do always put the focus on our food, our sleep, stress, training quality, and things like that. When it comes to supplements, what I wanted to go through maybe a list of 10 that include micronutrients. So supplements can sometimes be a micronutrient, but sometimes you might not think of it as that way. So 10 supplements that I do recommend from time to time, and why. Number 1 is a multivitamin. I do recommend a multivitamin for most people. especially for fat loss diets, because they're going to be restricting food. So they're now eating in a deficit, and often it's not going to be as much variety as if they were eating at maintenance level and or a surplus. So if we have any kind of food restrictions in regards to variety and total volume, I think a multivitamin is helpful. Just make sure you help kind of cover the baseline needs of the body, and they're relatively cheap. Tons of research supports that they're helpful for, again, maintaining the baseline needs of the body across various micronutrients. So a multivitamin, I think, is a very safe one. It's also very cheap, very effective. Another one I'll recommend from time to time is fiber. Fiber can help regulate our bowel movements, and it can help improve the digestive quality for someone. And again, this is if they're eating a low amount of food. Fiber is helpful to make sure things get moving and passing through you. If you're eating a large amount of food and maybe the food that you're eating doesn't add up to a lot of fiber throughout the day, adding a fiber supplement helps to make sure that food processes and gets through your intestines. Essentially, when you take fiber, it's just basically pushing everything out of you. So that way you don't sit there bloated and just feel disgusting, and then that can impact hunger. So, for example, when you're dieting, adding more fibrous foods to your food selection can help you feel fuller, because we don't get the calories from fibrous foods the same way we do non-fibrous foods. So you can eat a high amount of fiber, feel full, but not get a lot of calories from it. And then the alternative, when somebody's eating a lot of calories in order to grow, if they don't have enough fiber, the food backs up in their system and they're not going to feel very hungry. They're going to feel bloated, heavy, and disgusting. So we want to take enough fiber that they go to the bathroom enough that things clear their system so they're ready and hungry for the next meal. So fiber is something very helpful. Sodium is something we look at. I often will look at if sodium is really, really low with people who are dieting, and maybe they're just feeling kind of low energy. They get a little lightheaded when they stand up. We definitely might want to add some sodium, and then we're probably going to add some other things too to address that. But sodium is something that we would look at and say, okay, how low are you? You know, if they're under 1,000 milligrams of sodium a day, we might want to play with that and push that up a little bit, especially if they're training and doing cardio. And then if somebody's eating a lot of calories for performance and or muscle mass, we want to make sure the sodium is sufficient to support their activities. They're not feeling like dehydrated, or the muscles aren't fatigued in their activities. But then also we want to double check and make sure we're not having any blood pressure related issues to high sodium. So if they're having say 10,000 milligrams of sodium a day, that might be excessive. So we're going to check and see, how their blood markers are and see if that's even necessary. Maybe we bring that down. The next one is digestive enzymes, probiotics, things like that. Those are really helpful just to make sure that, again, the gut health is optimized and we're breaking down our food as we should. We're getting the micronutrients and macronutrients out of the food as we should. We're not getting gassy, bloating, distension, none of the negative things that we wouldn't want in digestion. Something that contributes a lot to that is hydration. One of my newer clients, she's realized that she wasn't even drinking 40 ounces of fluid a day, which is extremely low. And so she started trying to get up to that amount, maybe a little bit higher. And one thing she noted was how much better her digestion has been. So that's really awesome. So hydration can play a huge impact into digestive quality. Next we look at is joint supplements. I'm super duper fan of joint supplements, because if somebody's lifting weights on a regular basis, especially if they're in a calorie deficit, if they're pushing for fat loss or contest prep, they're going to a lot of wear and tear on the body, a lot of damage, and we might be running the edge of not giving the body quite what it needs to fully recover. So we want to make sure we're doing that. So we would take a joint supplement. There's a bunch of different varieties of types. It depends on the person's preference and whatnot. One I like is Animal Flex. Animal is a product line by Universal Nutrition. It's like their bodybuilding line, so it's a little like extra dosed. And it's called Flex, F-L-E-X, and it's a good joint supplement. I have my mom actually taking that. I have Meredith, my wife, taking that. So it's a really good one. Next, we have fish oils and omega fatty acids. These are good for like heart health. It also is good for hydration in the joints. If you have dry eyes, fish oils can help. It's very helpful for any diet that might be low in fat. And again, if somebody's restricting calories and they're more performance-based, they might be leaning more into well-timed carbohydrates, high protein, maybe not a ton of fat. So fatty acids like fish oil, those kind of things can be very helpful. There's also like flaxseed oil and some other ways of getting fats in as well. Vitamin D3 is a really good one. A lot of people don't go out in the sun. They don't get a lot of vitamin D3 conversion from sunlight. And vitamin D3 can impact your mood. It can impact hormone levels. So vitamin D3 is great. It's also insanely cheap. So that's a really good supplement for those reasons. Creatine is one that I recommend. I typically recommend 5 grams a day. That seems to be the most study-backed volume and amount that is commonly accepted. Will some people take more and say that they got great results from it? Yes. I don't really hear people taking less and say they get great results. So 5 grams a day seems to be pretty good. You can go ahead and try, 10 grams a day if you want. I do not know in the research anywhere that says, what the upper limit is and what like an oversaturation might cause in regards to health effects. I don't really see anything saying that there's going to be like a negative outcome from it. So I wouldn't go ahead and just start taking 50 grams a day. But if you're taking 5 grams a day and you just want to experiment and see if more helps, go for it. But 5 grams a day is what I recommend because it is the most supported by research. And then the last one I'll cover is vitamin B complex and electrolytes. With my endurance athletes, triathlon clients, marathon, ultramarathon, high endurance athletes, we will do a vitamin B complex in the morning before their morning activities, and then we'll do electrolyte supplements either intra-workout, pre or post-workout, depending on the timing of their workouts and how many workouts they're doing in a day. But that's something we'll often look at for endurance athletes for general energy support is vitamin B complex and or electrolytes. One of the great things of that is if you take too much of it, you're just going to pee it out. Your pee will just be like a neon yellow. So it's not going to be like the worst thing in the world. You'll just notice that and say, okay, I'm probably taking too much. But those are 10 supplements that I do recommend in various situations and the whys of why I recommend them. And again, it was a multivitamin, fiber, sodium, digestive enzymes like probiotics and things, joint supplements, fish oil and omega fatty acids, vitamin D3, creatine, and vitamin B complex and or electrolytes. So I thought that would be fun to go through what are some common ones that I do recommend and who I recommend them to. But again, in the big picture, supplements only matter once you're addressing more important things such as our nutrition, which is calories, protein distribution, hydration, sleep quality, stress management, and then the overall consistency of those components, and then our training quality if your desired outcome is training dependent. So supplements do not make up for any of those things. Once those things are in place and well controlled and they're consistent, then supplements can be helpful. Cool. If you have the available money, supplements are something fun you can play around with. You can see, how do I feel if I take this? How do I feel if I don't? One of the things I would always pay attention to is changing one element at a time. It's going to be almost impossible to tell what is happening if you take 2 or 3 things at one time and then you have an impact or a feeling, you don't know which thing did the thing. So often when you're manipulating supplements, you want to manipulate them one at a time. And I usually would give about a week or 2 weeks to see. So I'm going to do this supplement for 2 weeks or take the supplement away for 2 weeks, see how I feel before I then make the next adjustment. So that's just some general information. I hope that is helpful. I hope it gives some more context as to not only creatine but other supplements as well. If you have any questions, if you need anything, my email is c3method@gmail.com. It's the 3 is spelled out, so it's CTHREE method, c3method@gmail.com. Our website will be up and running hopefully this weekend, fingers crossed. So c3method.com. And then if you like the podcast, make sure you share the podcast. The more people share it with, the more people can help. Helps continue to grow the podcast. And then that's just going to be, hopefully helping make the world a better place, provide some information that is good quality. It's clear, concise, and you know how to customize it to your needs. That's the idea of what we're doing. And if you would like to support the podcast and or support our business, you can join our Patreon service. If you join the Patreon service, it's $10 a month. You get to participate in our weekly Q&A. I'm going to be having the weekly Q&A as a podcast available on Fridays, so you get to hear what is in the Q&A. By being a patron, you actually get to submit your question and have your question answered in the Q&A. And then we're also going to have monthly training programs available, beginner and intermediate programs that'll cover powerlifting, bodybuilding, fat loss and shape, functional athleticism, and then minimal equipment workouts, like if you only have like dumbbells and body weight. So those are going to be brand new every month. You can join them. You can try the workouts. You can ask questions in the Q&A. It's a great way for $10 a month to get monthly programming and get access to a nutritionist and trainer. So I think it's a pretty damn good deal. So if you want to check that out, go to patreon.com and look for C3 Method. Again, that's 3 spelled out THREE, C3 Method. Cool. We're also always on Instagram and YouTube, again, under that name C3 Method. So check us out on those platforms as well. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.